Welcome to Haverchat, a leadership podcast where we explore the principles, the stories, and the people that shape great leadership. Hello, everyone. My name is Todd Wiesenberg, and I am the Chief Culture Officer here at Haverkamp Group. And today we're going to have a conversation about the mentor-mentee relationship and how it influences or impacts leadership. Joining us today are two guests. We have Tanya Betts, who is the Chief Financial Officer here at Haverkamp Group, and we have Jeff Bramble, the Vice President of Asset Management. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's get at it. Before we dive into the first question, I really would like to hear a little bit of your guys' story, more than just the introduction I just gave about your titles. Want to know how you came to Haverkamp, what it is that you do, what it's like to work with one another. Then we'll get into the mentor-mentee relationship that the two of you have. So Jeff, let's start with your story.
Yeah. I'm getting close to retirement, so I've got a long work history. Started back in the early 80s. Got out of college and got a job in manufacturing. Worked the first 22 years of my career in manufacturing, first in accounting and finance roles and later in general management roles, culminating with a position with American Athletic in Jefferson as president and CEO, which is where I met Tanya. So our relationship actually started back in 1998 when I was halfway through my career and Tanya was just getting started. I'll let her fill in a little bit more, but from there, when I left American Athletic in 2005, I kind of started the second half of my career, which happened to be in real estate. I've worked now in real estate for a little over 20 years, the last 10, which I just celebrated my 10th anniversary with Haverkamp. Has been here at Haverkamp Group. I started originally as president of Haverkamp Properties, did that for 6 or 7 years, excuse me, transitioned to president and CEO of Haverkamp Group, and most recently in my current position in asset management.
All right. Tanya, your journey.
Jeff kind of alluded to where my journey started. Mm-hmm. I graduated from Iowa State in 1997 and started working at American Athletic straight out of college. I had about a year there when Jeff joined the organization. So then I had the privilege of working with Jeff. I wasn't a direct report of his at that point in time, but worked with him for maybe another year or so, and then had the opportunity to be on Jeff's team. And so from a very young professional age, I guess, if you would, I had the privilege and opportunity to work underneath Jeff and learn kind of what true accounting was, manufacturing accounting. He had a lot of experience and background in that, and worked with Jeff for 7 or 8 years, I think, at American Athletic. Jeff moved on to another opportunity, and then my career continued at American Athletic until 2021, when I left American Athletic, came to a company here in Ames called Hawk Corporation for 3 weeks, and then had a conversation with Jeff, had an opportunity to join his team again here at Haverkamp. So I ended up here in June of 2021, and I've been here since. Started out as a controller role and now sit in the CFO chair here for Haverkamp.
Yeah, we're kind of smiling at each other and chuckling a little bit because before we started recording, we were talking about what that transition was like from Hawk to Haverkamp, and we'll unpack that a little bit more here in a little bit. Before we dive into your mentor-mentee relationship and get into that specific story of coming to work here and what that looked like for the two of you, want to get your definition of leadership. So as you think about leadership, how you define it, what it looks like, what it means to you, I just would like to understand your definition of leadership. And let's start with you, Tanya, on that one.
Sure. So leadership for me is really just a group of people working toward that common mission, that common goal, and somebody is leading that group, whether it's a title at a work organization or whether it's just an informal role that somebody steps into, but just the opportunity to lead a group toward a common goal is kind of my definition.
Gotcha. That's good. Jeff, how would you define leadership?
Well, I think Tanya kind of gave a textbook definition, so I probably wouldn't define leadership a whole lot differently. I do think it's influencing and encouraging a group of people towards a shared or a common goal. I'd add to that kind of my practice of leadership. I've always tried to be lot of people have coined this term. It's not mine, but I've always tried to be a servant leader. And so I have always viewed my primary responsibility as a leader to remove barriers and roadblocks so that my team can get the job done.
Gotcha. Those are good definitions, and obviously I've seen it lived out in both of you as you guys have worked here at Haverkamp. So let's rewind and go back to when you guys first met, and like to hear the origin story of what we're going to call the mentor-mentee relationship. Maybe it wasn't quite so formalized when you first started, but yeah, Jeff, let's start with you. And how did it begin, and how did you guys first connect?
Yeah, and you're right, Todd. It certainly wasn't intentional. We didn't think of ourselves as mentor-mentee when it started, but I had taken a position as CFO at American Athletic, where Tanya was a young accountant. And I quickly realized that I had inherited a staff that didn't have a lot of accounting background. The assistant controller at the time, I don't think she had any formal education, certainly not in accounting. And after spending a little bit of time with her, I realized I had an issue on my hand of not having a very good right-hand person, if you will. And then I got to know Tanya and realized that she did have a formal degree in accounting, did know what a bank reconciliation was, did know what debits and credits were. And so that was kind of the start of the relationship. I quickly learned that she was going to be the person that I could trust the most on my staff.
Okay, so there wasn't any, formal program, anything like that. Just in your leadership role, as you looked across your team, you identified somebody who you wanted to spend time with, invest in, obviously from a hard skill standpoint. But was there any moment where anything became a little bit more definitive as far as you wanting to help her grow in her leadership?
Yes. By that point in my career, I knew it was important to have a good team, and I quickly determined that my assistant controller wasn't going to be on that team, and Tanya was kind of the next person up, if you will. And so I knew she had the educational background and just needed some guidance from somebody who had a little more professional experience at that point than what she did. So at that point, again, I'd struggle to say it was intentional, but in retrospect, yeah, I guess it was intentional.
Tanya, as he shares that story and as you reflect on that time in your career, what were the qualities, or what did you see? Were there any signals in the relationship that, were impactful for you?
Jeff was an individual that was willing to train, willing to teach, willing to take the time to work with somebody. And I think that's just part of who he is. He talks about building his team, but he also built, a lot of things in me as a person, not just at the workplace. So it wasn't held back about offering advice, sharing stories, sharing perspective from his life that he had lived. And so as a brand new young accountant, brand new into my career, brand new mom in some cases, just offered all kinds of life skills, life advice, as well as workplace advice. So I think in him, that was what I saw, just that person willing to take the time, willing to train, willing to show me those things that I didn't know, hadn't experienced, and then help me be a better person, all, kind of from a whole, all around perspective.
Okay, so Tanya, I'm going to stick with you. So as you think about maybe a specific leadership skill, or maybe there's a couple different leadership skills that Jeff has really influenced you on or helped you grow in, what are those, and how did that growth happen?
So as I was, kind of beginning my leadership path at AAI, a couple employees initially, then, some extra departments moving forward. I think the one thing that Jeff really emphasized maybe, or made me aware of, is the relationships you build. And he kind of mentioned it, the servant leadership style, the removing the roadblocks, the helping the team grow. And as a young individual, that was important to me, to have somebody that really kind of drove those principles home for me and really helped me understand that being a good leader is really all about my team, really helping them be the best person they can be and helping that team build. And that was very influential at my young age that I was working with Jeff at that point.
So what I'm hearing, Tanya, is, Jeff's a great role model.
Very much so.
Very much agree. And I can speak personally as well that he's been a great role model for me in my career as well. So Jeff, was there ever a moment that you realized in your role as being I know it wasn't formalized or maybe given the title mentor, but was there a moment where you realized, boy, this is helping you grow in your leadership as well?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think back, getting old enough, my memory's not as good as it once was, but I had leadership experience when I came to AAI, but it wasn't many years. And so I think one of the challenges of a new leader is often delegation. Well, we've been leaders in general. We've been successful in our careers. That's usually what's landed us in a leadership position, but we've oftentimes done it kind of by ourselves. You know, we've performed. You get in a leadership position and you start to realize that I need a team. A team will always accomplish more than any individual will. But it's a little scary to delegate. You're having to give up control of certain things. Well, Tanya was maybe the first person that I could truly trust to do things that I was willing to delegate to her, and not only do them, but do them in a way that hopefully I had showed and modeled for her. And so through that informal relationship that we had, that's what I learned through it, is that I could delegate. I could trust someone else, that if I'd provided the proper training and modeling to do it. And she did. She took the things that I delegated, got the job done, and the relationship built from there.
Okay, I want to piggyback off the word trust, because that's important in any kind of relationship. So what was it in your guys' relationship as you were going through this together that you began to have that trust built up in Tanya? You know, what were some things that happened that were pivotable?
Well, she started it. You know, it's a combination of a working relationship, but also there's some personal touches. And you know, there's always that fine line of you don't want to get too personal. But I think to develop trust in any individual, you do have to combine personal elements with it. It's about understanding the person's personal stories. And when you understand some of the things they've been through in their life personally as well as professionally, that helps build the trust. Those of us who have been through the 5 dysfunctions of a team training know that absence of the trust is the base of the pyramid, and you have to get beyond that before you can continue up the pyramid. And so building that trust does require personal knowledge and involvement with a person. I think Tanya and I, as she said, developed that along with our professional relationship from a very early point.
Lencioni uses the word vulnerability when he talks about trust, that in order to build trust, people have to be vulnerable with one another. So Tanya, what made it possible for you to be vulnerable with Jeff? And, you know, was there anything that, okay, I'm willing to invest in this relationship a bit more and be vulnerable?
Yeah, so Jeff is an easy person to trust. I mean, he just has that personality that it's easy to connect with, easy to relate to, and just easy to develop that rapport. I'm also not a super quiet, private person. That comes as a shock to many people I know. But I do sometimes, you know, extend that. You know, I want to develop those relationships. I really want to have that rapport. So I think my personality coupled with just the person he is, it made that easy to develop that rapport.
I'm over here chuckling because, yeah, Tanya doesn't have any secrets. And honestly, once I get to know somebody, I don't have many secrets either. I prefer being open and honest and forthright and those kind of things. And I think we kind of built, played off one another in that, to where she knew the kind of inside parts of my life and I knew the inside parts of her life, and that made our professional relationship grow.
Yeah, going to kind of go off script here a little bit. Over the last 10 years, Jeff, as you and I have, built our relationship. I remember early on, you and I having a conversation about authenticity and how it's really difficult to maybe live one life, here and one life there, as far as, that professional and that personal. And it's a lot simpler, life is, when you can just be the same person, authentic at work as you are, in person. Yeah. Tanya, I'm gonna go back to you and talk about some of the hardest lessons that you've learned as you wrestled through things together. And this is what we were talking about before we started recording. And that wasn't all that long ago. Maybe the hardest lesson that the two of you guys had to navigate together. You want to tell your version of that story, and then we'll get Jeff's version of the story.
Sure. So I kind of joked about it. I mean, I'm sure Jeff had challenges leading me as a young accountant at AAI, but probably one of the most challenging times in our leadership relationship was maybe him trying to help me decide, help convince me what my future path should be. When my son was just about out of high school, I felt a professional pull to kind of have some new challenges beyond where I was at American Athletic. I had kept in touch with Jeff over the years. Jeff and I talked about that. We talked about even early before that, I guess we had a couple conversations about my kind of professional pull. Jeff knew my importance as a mom, where that kind of stood in my life. And he said at that point, you might not remember this, but I remember him telling me, I'm not sure if you're ready to commute at this point and take on that additional kind of challenge. And I said, yeah, I don't think I am. So once Cole graduated, I started looking for opportunities outside of my base where I'd been for 24 plus years. Found an opportunity. I had communicated with Jeff. He was actually a reference for me. Found an opportunity at Hawk Corporation here in Ames. So I was super excited, made the transition, and then the reality of leaving my home of 24 and a half years, I think, hit. Okay. So it was a really tough transition emotionally. It was tough professionally. I started to second guess, is this where I'm supposed to be? Maybe I should have stayed at AAI. Had many phone calls with Jeff, some of them involving tears. My tears, not Jeff's. But it was really a difficult transition. So 3 weeks into my career there, Jeff called me and said, hey, I have an opportunity at Haverkamp that opened up, and wow. The world upset again. So I talked over the weekend, multiple phone conversations, multiple discussions, and finally decided to take the opportunity here at Haverkamp and leave the new role that I just started at Hawk. So very much an emotional window of time, and maybe the toughest leadership that Jeff actually had to help me work through.
All right, let's hear your version of the story, Jeff, and what you recall.
I think there's no doubt it was the toughest period in our relationship. We really didn't have any misalignments or conflicts or any of that in a true working arrangement, but more in this career transition part. Right, Tanya told me over the last few years she was at American Athletic that she didn't think she'd stay here forever and was anxious to consider opportunities. And if I would ever hear of anything that might be interested, let her know. And so we had those kind of conversations. And then as it got closer that she was pretty adamant that my time here is done, I need to move, I, at that same time, knew that there may be an opportunity at Haverkamp. I couldn't predict that for certain, certainly couldn't predict exactly when that may be, but I'm trying to slow her down and get her to wait until I know whether I'm going to have an opening or not. And she's, she can be a little headstrong sometimes. She's pretty adamant that it's time to move, and so ultimately she decided to take this other job. And of course, as things unfold, within a week or two, we did have a transition here at Haverkamp where I had an opening for a controller that I knew. I had known for years if I ever had that kind of opening, she was the person I would go after. And I didn't hesitate, and I was telling you before we started, Todd, I was actually playing in a Chamber of Commerce golf outing and negotiating with her at the same time to try and get her to leave a job that she'd been at for 2 weeks and come to work for us. So, stressful, it's one of those things you look back on and kind of laugh about. But yeah, it was a big deal for her, and I didn't know for sure if I was going to get her.
Okay, so you came to Haverkamp. What was that first week like for both of you?
Very tough again.
Okay, very tough again.
I didn't expect to have the same hurdle, if you would.
Okay.
I knew my boss. I'd worked for him before. I did not know the industry. That was going to be new to me, but I was excited about the opportunity to learn. I've always been excited about opportunities to learn new things. And so I thought it was going to be great. I thought, yeah, I'll be working with Jeff again. It's a known variable, all those things I thought were great. And then kind of had, again, some of those same self-doubt. Just, is this really where I'm supposed to be? Can I do this? Do I have the ability to do this? So again, Jeff probably had a challenging role to continue to lead me, continue to provide that leadership strength and say, yep, this is good. I think you have the skills. I think this is where you're supposed to be. And I don't know if you had any secret conversations with my husband or not, but it was a trying time for that first week.
I can't remember a single time I've had a secret conversation with Alan, but Tanya and I have learned over the years that her husband and I are very much alike and give similar advice. So I think we have a kind of a unspoken connection that we just give her the same input. But I think Tanya tried to quit 2 or 3 times that first week. And again, I wasn't confident that I was ultimately going to salvage her role here, but I knew she was the right one, and I knew her makeup, and I knew she would work hard. I knew she had a big hurdle learning a new industry, but I was confident she could do it if she would just buckle down and give it a chance. And ultimately she did. I had a little bit of a hurdle learning property management when I started. And Todd, you were a big help to me in that. And I knew that we collectively could be a help to her, and she would get it.
I want to talk about, again, mentor-mentee relationships. And let's imagine for a moment that somebody comes to you. So let's role play a little bit, and they want to seek a mentor. Tanya, what kind of advice would you give an emerging leader who is seeking out a mentor?
I think find somebody that A, you can be comfortable with, but B, will push you. It's hard to push yourself sometimes. So find someone that will be honest with you. They'll help you see your blind spots, and that has the skills themselves to help you develop as well. I think those are all important in a mentor-mentee relationship. Those were all things that Jeff could help me with.
Okay. Jeff, what kind of advice would you give an emerging leader as it pertains to looking for a mentor? Maybe even differently, having been a mentor, what kind of advice maybe would you give a mentor who's looking for a mentee? Or
Yeah, I think from the latter part of that, Todd, always be willing to invest in the next generation. I mean, you and I share a faith journey in a church that believes in pouring into the next generation, and it's easy to take that same concept and apply it to the workplace.
Yes.
You will always be better served by continuing to raise up young leaders, because as I know well now, 2 weeks from my retirement, I'm not going to be here forever, and Haverkamp needs the next generation to step up as some of the original leaders move on. And so that needs to be a bit of an intentional effort to pour into younger people. As it concerns a young person looking for a mentor, I encourage it, but I would say first focus on doing the job that you've been assigned and doing it real well. Don't look for the next step too quickly. You will always impress upper leadership by doing your assigned job well first, and concentrate on being very proficient there before you look for new opportunities. But then, and I had a good friend and partner, if you will, in business that was the first one I remember encouraging me, don't be afraid, particularly when you're learning a new industry, to reach out to people that maybe are at a peer or even a level above where you are, and learn from them. Be willing to buy them lunch and just ask questions. And I can think of a lot of professional leadership people that kind of apply that same philosophy, Dave Ramsey being one good example, always reaching out to leaders in other industries and learning from them. And so I think that's something as a young emerging leader that you can do as you're seeking out a mentor type relationship.
Okay, so Jeff, while you've got the mic, if you will, I want you to think about Tanya and how she has grown in her leadership, and how she has impacted Haverkamp. What has she brought to Haverkamp over the last several years here?
Sure. Well, she's brought a unique approach to financial leadership. I've always thought that. I don't know that Tanya chose the right profession originally, because she doesn't have a typical accountant personality. So that's just kind of a fun thing that she's brought to.
Yes.
She's very social.
Yes,
Most
she is.
accountants are not social. So that's just kind of a fun thing that she's brought, but she's fit on the team exceedingly well. The thing I've always been most impressed about Tanya, and she said it earlier, is her desire to learn new things. She's always anxious to grow personally, and that becomes a model for her team.
Okay.
And she may not come across as being real pushy to promote professional growth, but people see that in her and they want to follow it. And she works exceedingly hard. She doesn't always work exceedingly hard at work, but that's a bit of an inside joke, because I know the hours she puts in when she goes home at night. And she's a late night person. I'm an early morning person. So that was maybe one conflict in our relationship. But she's willing to work extraordinarily hard, a lot of hours. And she does it to learn and to get the job done. You can count on her to get the job done. You can count on her to always be willing to take on something new.
Okay. Well, I have a feeling you modeled that for her as well, a lot of those traits, and it's coming out, and love hearing how she's modeling that for others on her team. So, Tanya, when you think about Jeff and his impact here as far as his leadership at Haverkamp, what comes to mind?
One thing that pops right into my mind is his care about the team, and you talked about authenticity, just that genuineness, the openness, and caring about the team, not just at work. He cares about the person, he cares about their future, their benefit. And I think that was something I learned early on from him, that it isn't just about the workplace. It isn't just about what I need out of that person. That can't be great leadership. And so, really being vested and concerned about the genuine well-being of that employee, whether it is the pro in position, whether it is a person with this aggressive learning desire, whatever that is, whether it's a person who wants to grow and develop beyond the team that they're on with you today and have an opportunity outside of that, but really genuinely caring about their well-being and where do they want to go.
All right, Jeff, you alluded to this earlier. You're just a couple weeks from retirement. This is kind of a very unique month. We're going to celebrate, or you did have your 10-year anniversary. We're going to go celebrate that here, even today yet, and then in a couple weeks we're going to be celebrating your retirement. So, as you think about your retirement, what part of leadership philosophy approach do you hope will continue, kind of as a legacy here at Haverkamp?
Wow. It's a little, I don't know, uncomfortable. I never thought early in my career, obviously, that I'd reach this point, where you'd start talking about legacies, but not only at work, but from a family standpoint. The next generation's passing on, and even from a family standpoint, I'm starting to think about legacies. So, I have to start, Todd, and you were integrally involved with this. I brought EOS to this organization, and as I look back on my 10 years with Haverkamp, I can't think of a single thing that maybe I've had a hand in that is more important than bringing EOS to the organization. And I always say there's nothing really complicated or exceedingly difficult about implementing EOS, but it's crucial to get the entire team on the same page. And as you know, it's been an operational structure that has allowed us to thrive over the last 10 years because it gets everybody on the same page, speaking the same language, doing the things the same way.
Yes.
And so I hope if there's a piece of my legacy, it is EOS specifically, but in general, understanding the benefit of structure, a set of guidelines that everybody adheres to. It's not rigid. It's very flexible, but it's something you can always come back to if you get off on a tangent or something. And so I think that would be the biggest specific thing. And then we've talked about the philosophy of always emphasizing team over individual. I would hope that my years has seen a transition of Haverkamp being an organization that was perhaps a bit siloed when I came to being a much more integrally operated company now, where all of our people and all of our divisions work together for a common purpose.
Yeah, Tanya and I are like nodding our heads here as you talk because, I say your fingerprints are all over this company when it comes to the entrepreneurial operating system and developing that within the organization. And it did help remove the silos, and it helped bring greater unity in structures and all those type of things. So I would definitely say that that's a big one. Would you add anything to that, Tanya?
Absolutely. So the number of individuals who Jeff has had an impact on, and again, it might be an informal mentor-mentee type relationship, but just the number of individuals here who you can see snippets of his leadership style carry forward through. That's impressive to me, and it's exciting because I know the person that helped me develop through my career was a great leader. And so to be able to see those little snippets in other people that, he has rubbed off on them, if you would, or has, led those individuals to have kind of the same excitement about that leadership style within our organization. It just helps the overall culture that we have here. And I think when we talk about that, Jeff has played a very pivotal role in the overall culture of our organization and driving that throughout the entire company. And that's what I think a lot of us get so excited about being part of Haverkamp for, is the culture that's here. And he talked about EOS, the opportunities that exist, because that helps all of us in terms of opportunities for growth and opportunities for the company to grow. So just a huge impact on our organization that he leaves behind at the end of this month. So thank you for that. And I'm excited that, the things he has put in place and the things he has influenced and developed and helped here will help us moving forward.
Tanya, you and I have been in some meetings recently with asset management, and you talk about his impact on that next generation. We see that in Luke and Josiah, and as we sit in those meetings, there's oftentimes I see little glimpses of Jeff's impact and influence on them. And there's a phrase that I will always give Jeff credit for, and that's that numbers tell a story. And what is that story telling us? So that's another legacy part right there.
Numbers tell a story. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, as you think about that next generation of leaders here, and what gives you confidence in the culture in the company that that it's going to continue to grow, that there's scalability, there's sustainability?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. As I realized, I don't know, in a couple of recent years that it was time for me to step aside. Primarily because the younger generation of leaders has the energy that perhaps I had in my 20s that I don't have anymore. So just that energy, the desire to learn. There's new technologies that when I was in my 20s, I was the one pushing the new technologies, PCs over mainframe computers and those kinds of things. But now it's AI and a bunch of things I don't understand. So, but the young people do, and they're really good at it. And Josiah is a great example, as is Luke on my current team. These guys are going to far surpass anything that I could do if I stayed. And we had a session in here on Monday where we went through some of our properties. Josiah led that, and at the end of it all, Paul looked at me and said, "Jeff, do you have anything that I add?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I think you're in good hands." When I walk away, and both he and Brent nodded in the affirmative, and it just made me proud for Josiah because I know he's got a strong future, as do many of the up and coming leaders in our organization.
As we start to wrap things up here, I just want to always close by giving each of you, each guest, the opportunity to maybe share something that didn't come up in our conversation that you would like to share, something that maybe you don't want to left unsaid. So Tanya, I'll start with you. Anything that you wish you would have shared that you didn't get a chance to?
No, I feel like I shared everything that I wanted to share. But just, we talked about it wasn't a formal mentor-mentee relationship starting out. But I try to reflect back and think, where would my career have gone had I not had the opportunity to work with Jeff at the start of that foundation? And I honestly don't know. I think, I had a mentor who pushed me outside of my comfort zone. I loved to learn, but I needed that too. So, I don't have anything to say other than just I appreciate everything you brought to myself as a developing accountant and developing leader, as well as everything you brought to the Haverkamp team that I now get to have the benefit of going forward with beyond your retirement. So just thank you for all the people that you influenced over your career.
Tanya, well said. I love that part about the coaching and what a mentor's role is to challenge and push that person outside of their comfort zone, and that's where we grow. And so that's a role of a mentor and a coach. And I would agree. Jeff has had that impact on me as well. So, Jeff, how about for you? Anything you want to say that you don't want to left unsaid?
Well, I just am exceedingly grateful to have spent the last 10 years of my career here at Haverkamp. Maybe it was kind of an odd ending date to pick the end of January, but I intentionally did that because I knew my 10th anniversary date was in early January, and I didn't want to stop short of that. I've never worked anywhere 10 years in my career until I came to Haverkamp. So just very grateful for the opportunity that Brent gave me 10 years ago to come here, the chance to do some things that I'd always wanted to do in my career, like implement EOS. But although I'm leaving from a professional standpoint, I will always maintain relationships. Tanya and I have each, and I don't want to get emotional in this, but Tanya and I have each experienced some pretty significant personal losses over the last couple of years. And one of the benefits of our relationship is we have been there for one another during those times of loss. And that's just pretty special.
Yes.
When you can have those relationships that develop throughout your personal career. It's work, it's a career, it's our professional path, but there's personal things that intersect with that, and that's pretty special.
Jeff, thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable. But that's all part of the mentor-mentee relationship. It's any relationship. To have a healthy relationship, that's what it takes, is getting to know each other. And we do spend a lot of time at work with one another, so let's make it enjoyable. Let's get to know each other. Let's sharpen each other as well. So
absolutely.
Again, Jeff, Tanya, thank you for being guests today and for sharing your experiences and your stories and your insights. We're all the better for it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And I do want to thank our audience for joining us today here at Haverchat, a leadership podcast. And we hope that today's conversation will have inspired you to think about becoming a mentor or asking for a mentor or being a mentee, or maybe even both. So thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to keep following Haverchat as we continue to have conversations with leaders who are making an impact each and every day. So until next time, keep leading with purpose.